Voting wrapped up last week for the 2019 GAC Legacy Awards, and this week we spend time talking to those who you, the fans, voted as the winners. And the recipient of the Coach of the Year across the conference from Southwestern Oklahoma State women's basketball, Kelsi Musick. Coach, thanks for taking time to talk to me.
Well, thank you for having me.
Coach, much was made from hearing from the player side, how you guys instituted a press to your defense after already playing a fast-paced offense. Just what inspired you to want to add that to your team's your repertoire, and then secondly, how did the installation go?
The biggest thing was we've always played fast offensively, and so I felt like in order for us to to just be a little bit better and to have an edge on people, we needed to change up our defense. So we implemented the full court press. I think that my goal was to take people out of their rhythm and to continue to speed up the game so we could hopefully try to get more possessions per game. So that was kind of our goal in the fact of adding that press. As far as implementation, it took us a little bit to get good at it. First of all, I think my players thought I was a little crazy. But obviously preseason was a huge factor in us getting in even better shape than we already were. And then just being able to, learn each other and trust each other as a team, in the simple fact of knowing that if I'm going to pressure and I'm going to trap, that someone else behind me is going to get my back. And they just got better and better as the season went on. But initially it was just learning each other and having that faith and confidence.
Did you find it was easier to implement something so radical with a veteran group, whereas maybe if you had a group of maybe 8 freshmen, like this is now what the expectation is, or how did that contrast?
It definitely helped having the leadership. Obviously with the two starting seniors with Haley and Hayden. Obviously Haley wasn't the fastest player on my team, and she probably thought I was the craziest. But once they realized that they saw the benefits, they saw the fruits of their labor as far as the forced turnovers. Us being able to win by a larger margin. I think once they saw that happening and we fully bought into the system, then we definitely were able to reap the rewards of the system.
So then so before we get into the year and seeing it work out there, how are the growing pains with it, in the fall practices before, in October, or if you had scrimmages with each other, did you think maybe that even you were crazy, or did you see that there's something here that it's going to work, it's just going to take time?
I believed it would work, just like I believed in my offense the whole time, even when I didn't necessarily, when I first got here, I didn't have the players to necessarily run the offense to the full extent, but definitely believed in it. I think the biggest thing was film. Whenever we were able to play games, we were able to really execute and learn from the film sessions. It's a little bit harder to implement and practice it every single day in practice, in the simple fact that they know what's coming. And everyone knows kind of what we're doing. So the film sessions were, I think, very important for our learning and our growing pains.
And so as you move into the season here, a season that is obviously filled with expectations for, like you said, with having Haley and Hayden return as seniors from a team that already, had accomplished so much but hadn't had, real postseason success per se, and you open with Emporia, and it just has to feel like all the work you do. I don't know if you want to scrap it or just after that first game, just where is the team after that game with Emporia?
Well, the first thing is I'll take some blame for that, because we didn't, go all the way in. And the one thing that I do is, I don't tiptoe, I go all in. And so we went all in with Asa and our dribble drive offense. And in that Emporia game, the very first game of the season, I listened to some other people, and I didn't just fully go all in, and we mixed it up. We ran some of chaos, but then we went to some zone, and we kind of mixed it up. And that's not what we do. We're kind of all or nothing type people over here, or at least I am. So, after that game, we went all in. We went full court man to man for the rest of the season. So, part of that Emporia, I feel like was my fault for kind of tiptoeing and not just going all in at that point. And so I feel like once we did, we were definitely able to reap the benefits of the defense.
And then as so well documented, you don't lose again until the national championship game. Where along maybe in the season, if it was still in the non-conference season, if it was early in the league season, did you feel like that the system, both the defense was meshing with the offense to where we've got something that's going to be even more special than what you've experienced in your previous years?
I think by the time we got to Christmas, we could definitely see some of that. We thought, man, I think because we were able to win by some different margins, but definitely after the Christmas break, that was a huge moment for us to be able to, just to see it. And I think the other thing is when we started playing teams again for that second time, they kind of knew what to expect. Early it was still a shock to everybody because nobody knew what we were going to do that. And I don't know that anyone thought we would continue to do that for 40 minutes like we did. So I definitely think the second round of the conference, when we were really able to see, that what we implemented was successful, and we were able to grow and continue to win with that chaos defense.
Was there any coach in the league, whether head coach, assistant coach, or from maybe an administrator from another side, that after they played you and said, "Coach, what you've got here is something that is really special," or just as much as we tried to prepare for it, this is just more than what we anticipated. Did anyone speak to you that after playing you, whether in the non-conference or playing you a couple times in the regular season?
Not really. I think a few people I heard, thinking that they kind of figured it out, that we only did one thing or two things. But the one thing is I just think it's called chaos for a reason. It's crazy enough that I think it's a little bit hard to figure out. And the neat thing is that's the great thing about coaching. It is challenging because people try different things, different press breakers, different sets, different lineups against us. And I think that we were able to tweak and do things and make changes on the fly. And my players they adapted well enough to make changes in the midst of the game. If someone tried to throw something that we might not have expected at us, they were definitely receptive to us coaching them up and helping make those changes in order for us to continue to be successful.
And with as you mentioned, going all in, and you didn't quite do that in the Emporium, was there ever a spot, it seemed hard to find, where you did say, I need to pull back, whether it's for player minutes, or it's just 3 quarters have gone by and this isn't working, or did you just did you stick through it, that it's the system's going to work, it's going to work, and just did you stop doubting yourself?
Yeah, I think we definitely did. I mean, I can only think of maybe one or two other games in which it was a little bit difficult for us, but overall I felt like the other thing that we were able to do with our defense is wear the other teams down a little bit, to where their shot selection wasn't exactly what they wanted, or their legs were a little bit gone by the third and fourth quarter. Because if you go back and look, most teams they played with us for the first half. That we were even getting beat a lot at halftime, if you actually go back and look at some of the stats. But it was in that third and fourth quarter that we were trying to continue to push through. And I would remind my team, like, hey, there's a mission, there's a method to my madness. You've got to get to that third and fourth quarter. You've got to continue to press on and continue to push them and continue to speed up the game so we could be successful towards the end of the third and the fourth quarters.
So you spoke to, obviously, it takes on the scoreboard there, and you get, stats with turnovers. Are there any other numbers you're looking at that you guys get at the end of a game where you can say, give more proof to your players that what's working is beyond just the victories?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is forcing those turnovers. And then the other thing that we had to start focusing on, because there were some games and some moments in which we forced a lot of turnovers, but we didn't capitalize. And so those were big things, is forcing the turnovers, but then we had to turn around and score, because it didn't help us if we forced 40 turnovers and only scored 10 points off of them. So we definitely had to focus in on that. A few games I remember harping on him at halftime about the fact that we weren't converting those turnovers into points, and that was a huge part of our defense and our game plan.
And as part of the season, as it unfolds, you won the regular season title in 2018, but this year you go through it undefeated. Could you have envisioned, pulling? We're one of the few leagues that still has the true double round robin. So you see everyone a second time. You got the long road trips for you guys down to the Southern Arkansas schools. You have the Harding Tech road trip. You maybe obviously could be in 5 different cities across 3 weeks if you get back-to-back road games. Could you have envisioned it playing out as even in your imagination as well as it did?
Absolutely not. I mean, you dream of things like that, but even in the moment, I think it still felt a little surreal. It still felt a little surreal for the summer, trying to soak it all in and enjoy the moment. I mean, we definitely enjoyed it, but at the same time, I mean, you know, you couldn't have, I couldn't have written a better story as far as throughout the season and to be able to sweep the GAC. In my opinion, we have a great league and one of the best conferences in the nation. So for us to be able to do that, it definitely wasn't easy. And I give the utmost respect to the other teams in the conference. But at the same time, I mean, what an amazing story, what an amazing run. And to be able to send our seniors out with such a storied history and such a storied senior year. I mean, I couldn't have written it any better. Maybe that last chapter I would obviously.
I didn't want to say it, but I feel like there's one little tweak that maybe everyone would want.
There's one little tweak. If I could rewrite the story, there's the very end would be a little different. But as far as the rest of the season, as much as I wish we would have went undefeated, I think that Emporia game, the very first game of the season, it was a wake-up call. And, as much as I hate losing, it maybe was necessary to kind of shake some sense into them and to kind of wake us all up. But, from that to the very end, that I couldn't have written a better story except for the ending.
Sure. So, as the season does, wrap up there, with the national title game appearance, just, how much, I guess much of a fan base did you find growing with this team as it moved along? Obviously, you had the familiar names, so people, the community knew, Hayden and Haley and Tyra and even Bethany, as much as she performed her freshman year. But how much did you see it grow as this team embarked on this journey, certainly into March, from what you'd seen in years past?
I mean, it's amazing to see the growth. I mean, I think the one thing it definitely brought the community of Weatherford together. I mean, I felt like we got even more fans. I mean, I spoke at like Rotary and things after season, and they were like, we'd never really watched women's basketball, and we loved watching your games. And just the whole state of Oklahoma really rallied around us, and we found fans across the state and honestly across the nation that might have never paid as much attention to us, but for us to get those national televised games and for us to win the region and then, like I said, get those nationally televised games, it was just an amazing experience for our team to be able to have that sort of a fan base that we had never had before. It was just, I mean, it was really awesome.
Are you able to quantify that, whether it's, the messages you receive maybe from coaches across the country that, again, maybe you've just seen Southwestern as a regionally strong team, whether it's the homes you now go into to recruit? I mean, I know that Oklahoma is still going to be the base of your future players, but where is that, like kind of tangibly, have you seen it postseason?
I just think that the continued support that we've gotten just across, like you said, across the board from recruitment, just to the simple fact of people stopping us or, my players coming back and saying, oh, we were in this town today and I had on my SWOSU shirt and this person came up to me and said that they loved watching us play or asked if I was a women's basketball player. So it's able to still see people notice our shirts and really come and ask about us, and it's just been a real experience.
Yeah, you won every award your team did, so I've talked to roughly half your team, including I think some equipment managers. I think the mascot and I spent 10 minutes talking about this team. So I have to ask, because everyone else I spent extensive talk about Tabor's shot against UCM. Did you realize you dropped that low to the floor in your celebration?
I actually didn't at the moment, but afterwards when I saw a picture, I did specifically say I could never squat that low again. It was definitely the heat of the moment. When I go work out at the gym, which hasn't been as often as I needed this year, but I could not even remotely get that low. I was like, that was definitely the heat of the moment, because if I tried to do that right now, someone would have to help me get back up.
Well, between you and Coach Anderson, I think basically breaking the scorer's table, it was one of my more favorite reactions, because as I watch it, over, because we can see Tabor and her reaction. I think I've seen about how everyone reacts, and yours and Coach Anderson's are two of my favorites.
Well, thank you. It was awesome. It was awesome. I do think Coach Anderson possibly could have broke the scoreboard.
I think
easily.
I think others.
I don't want to come in contact with her fist in the moment.
I think
like
others
that.
said it. She came along and said, "My hand really hurts." I was like, "Yes, you killed their press table. It was pretty obvious."
It was awesome.
Well, again, so as we wrap up here with Coach Kelsi Musick from the Southwestern Oklahoma State basketball team, as voted by you, the fans, the GAC Coach of the Year across all sports. Could you have imagined maybe a year ago that you would be in the position and it'd be so much focused on a defensive change you implemented?
No, no one would have ever thought that either, because, we're so offensive oriented, and that's just always been our focus. But for us to make it's a little bit radical of a change. We've mainly always ran man. We've obviously done some zone, but for us to primarily run man to man, but to be able to make that change, to make that difference defensively, and for it to be such a rewarding change, and to the simple fact of, probably people was a little shocked that I would do something like that. It's been awesome. And just to be able to see my players buy in and fully understand and be able to, I guess, excel on both ends of the floor as well, because most people might look at our team and think, oh, we have these offensive powerhouses, but they really did respond defensively and step up their game. And I just felt like we were a more complete team and more complete players.
And I'll ask a couple of questions for you. What radical change do you have in store this year? Is it something you're willing to share? Or you keep state secrets and let everybody see it come November?
I can't give you all my secrets. That would just be unfair.
But as you said, people saw the press 2 times last year and they still couldn't figure out. So maybe even this 3 months heads up, they'd still be wondering how to stop you, your team next year. Well, Coach Musick, we thank you for taking the time to look back on your year and to accept this award. The last thing we always ask each recipient to do is we make it be your Oscar or Grammy speech moments. You get to give out your list of thank yous to all those, whether it was the votes or, like you said, the support you received throughout the year. So the floor is yours for this moment.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the votes. I'm flattered and humbled and very appreciative that people would think that I could even be even in the category and to be nominated, but to win. I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment and experience, and we just appreciate all the fans from just in our town, from the SWOSU community to the conference, just across the nation, for everyone that tuned into SWOSU women's basketball this year and that were a part of our storied year, and just for supporting us and believing in us. And, my team, when they bought in and they were able to see the fruits of their work and to be able to be so successful, I couldn't be more proud of my team and my staff. They really did an amazing job this last year, and I'm just extremely proud of them. And I don't even know if I can put into words exactly.
You literally froze as you were saying, I don't know if I could put it into words. So the screen wouldn't let you.
See, that's meant to be then.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you again. Looking back here with us, we'll see what you've got in store. Maybe we'll be talking again this time next year if you can be a 2-time recipient of the Coach of the Year honor for us. Thank you again for all the time and looking back on this one special season for your team.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.